In Wedding Wave, you're going to be able to select and guarantee one of these 5-star for yourself. But what do they do? How are they different from each other? And most importantly, which one of these characters is the best? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's what we're going to be breaking down in this exact video right after you subscribe, and let's get started. Starting off with the most important information is that the 5-star selectable banner will only appear after you completely deplete the novice banner of its 50 pull. This means you can avoid duplicate very easily. If you got encore on the novice banner, just don't select encore when it comes down to the guaranteed banner. One of the biggest fan favorites seems to be jianxin, who is kind of like a chi master generating chi every single time she attacks. As a chi master, she's capable of turning this chi into a shield or heal for the entire party, meaning that she's a pretty good defensive character. In fact, her skill allows her to enter defensive stand, countering any damage that come across her way, and it's extremely useful in any pinch situation where you just need to prevent yourself from taking damage. But the best part about her is probably her ults, where she is capable of generating a massive chi hole, sucking everything in, and has incredibly good grouping capability. I think she's a pretty solid pickup. She has the largest grouping currently the game has to offer, which could be really useful for certain endgame content that require grouping, or just for your day-to-day activity. I think this character is a pretty solid pickup if you plan on using her as your main damage dealer at the beginning, and then you can just transition her into a support in the endgame. Now, I don't think she's that good of a support, but she's still a usable one. She does provide shielding as well as a grouping, which can be occasionally useful. The main problem with her is that she's a little too slow for boss fight, which is the main encounter you encounter in the endgame. And then we have Lingyang, who has a really interesting play styles. He is going to be a super hyper carry, which means that your team damage is mostly going to come from him. You're going to be putting him on field for majority of the time. The main gimmick for Lingyang is that he can enter this line dance form where he can literally walk in air, kind of like an air dasher if you're ever familiar with that term. Overall, this character is pretty solid. He does very good ice damage. He is a very big hyper carry main DPS, but that do mean that you have to pour all your resources into building him. It's a fine pickup if you really like him because he's really cute, which by the way, he absolutely is. Verina is going to be the character that I recommend everyone to pick up if you don't really have another choice. Mostly just because this character is probably the most meta character in the entire game. Verina is the most universal buffer and healer in the entire game. You can put her into any team and it'll be good. The thing to be really careful about Verina is that she's only good for endgame, because this character is a support. For your early and mid game, you're much better off playing any other characters that is an actual DPS, which means that this character doesn't really shine until all the way when you hit end game. If you're a meta chaser, this character is by far the best one. But if you're a casual player, then just pick whatever you want, because this character is not going to be very useful in your day-to-day activity. Encore is a character that I don't recommend people to pick just because she's a little too hard to play. Encore requires you to animation cancel all of your extremely long animation, and she's meant to be played as a duo carry, which means you want to play another DPS alongside her. Encore also have a significantly harder time to parry compared to any other characters on this list, which make her extra hard to play against boss fight. Encore is just not really a character I would recommend right now, especially since we don't have any other character that is compatible with her yet. It could be really good in the futures, but for now, because of how hard she is to play, how much investment you need, and even then she's not really that great, this is the character that I would recommend people stay away from unless you really like her. The final selectable 5-star is going to be Calcharo, who is a very good Electro DPS. If you like this character, he's a very good pickup just because he is currently the best Electro DPS in the entire game. Calcharo has a pretty easy to understand playstyles, but overall he does really good Electro damage and he has a very good AoE range. But I just think he is currently one of the coolest characters this game has to offer, much cooler than any other male character this game has to offer, other than Lingyang, who is just really cute. This character actually has one of the highest skill ceiling this entire game has to offer because of his unique animation cancel mechanics, but it doesn't mean you have to do it. If you're casual, you can just do his basic combo and you still have a lot of fun, you still do really good amount of damage. This is actually a character that I do recommend to everyone if you're looking for a solid DPS from the very beginning. This character is really good for early and mid game just because you can start pouring resource into him, and then he transitioned into a very good Electro DPS, especially once you do get Yinlin, who is going to be the second limited character in this game. If you're looking to play this game casually, then just pick whatever character you want. It honestly don't really matter. Just pick the character that you think looks the coolest. Although if you're looking to play a little more meta, a little more seriously because you really want to push endgame, then I will highly recommend you pick Verina. Otherwise, you can just pick whatever. Overall, here's what my recommendation would really look like depending on your Nova's banner pull. If you pulled it jianxin on the Nova's banner, then I'll recommend you picking calcharo or Lingyang if you're intending her on using her as a support. And if you're using her as a DPS for the early game, then of course naturally you can pick up the best support there is in the game, Verina. If you hit Verina, obviously you don't need another support anymore, so I highly recommend going for either calcharo or Lingyang as your main DPS. And then finally, if you got anyone else, the answer is Verina. But I think if you got encore, I think you can also consider switching your main DPS to either Lingyang or calcharo, just because I'll be really honest, personally I'm really not a big fan of getting encore on your very first 5-star. I'll be honest, your choice is either just gonna be you pick Verina because you're meta, or you pick the character you like the most, and that's all it is. So yeah, hope this helped, bye.